Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? My name is Dora K. Fulton. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time being here, you are so very welcome, and I'm very grateful that you took the time out of your day to stop by. Here on this channel, we talk all things motivation as well as some creativity in the mix. And I also have a series called Motivation ESL where I focus on tips and how you, as an ESL teacher, can better help your students. I do have a second channel called Applied ESL, which is my own tutoring company. And on that channel, we do all things ESL lessons. I am a business owner. I have been a business owner for 4 years. Applied ESL is my online English tutoring company where I help adult learners build their confidence while practicing and improving their English speaking skills. All of that information will be underneath this video. I'm an author to 6 books, 5 published, 1 is a freebie. And speaking of freebies, I currently have 2 sales going on in my shop where I sell t-shirts such as the Try Your Best t-shirt, okay? Because when you try your best, you do your best. I also have ebooks. I have a lot of good resources for teachers or just anyone who's interested in supporting a small business. So definitely check out all that information down below. And if you use the coupon code MyScienceBook2, you will get a free copy of the Science Resource Book 2 International Edition, where it's a collection of pictures of street signs and road signs from around the world. It's a great resource for your students at all ages, and big thank you to all of my beautiful international friends and students who participated in this project. So, why am I here today? Many of you asked me, Dora, I would like to become an author, but I don't know how, or how do I get started? So allow me to spill the tea on that. So here are my children, and I have my other book underneath my laptop at the moment, but just to give you an idea, okay, this is my first book, Life's Reflective Twist. This is my personal story where I talk about how I overcame many difficult life's trials and tribulations through the power of reflection as well as prayer. And these are my ESL books, okay. These 2 books are all things life skills while learning English, and this one is for anyone who's interested in finding a job, starting a business, or you want to learn how to write a resume. Now, let's talk about how to get started in writing a book, because we see this all the time. Write your book, share your story, but I will tell you, friends, it's not an easy task. So I'm going to share some very simple tips to help you get started on your journey. The first thing you want to start out is by taking out a blank piece of paper. Now, I know because we're in this age of technology, everyone's on their phones and tablets and laptops, which there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes just taking a pen and a pad of paper and just writing down your ideas, your thoughts. It could be a paragraph, it could be a sentence, it could be a word. Because that's really how the writing process starts. It always starts with the things that doesn't make too much sense. So you're not approaching this in a way like you would with a research paper in college, right? You really have no idea how you're going to put this story or this book together. And that's what makes the process fun and a bit stressful. But we're going to focus on the positive. Okay, so take out paper and pen, write down your ideas. So let's say you want to write about your story. Perfect. Only you know your own story. So you say, I want to write about my story. Okay. Now, because we are all still alive, thank you for that, alhamdulillah, maybe you want to break it down and focus on an aspect of your story. Maybe you had a life-changing experience, or maybe something great happened that helped change your life, or maybe something tragic happened that helped change your life. Maybe you might want to focus on that. Maybe you're interested in writing fiction. Maybe you want to write about a story of whatever the topic is, but it's make-believe, it's not real. You want to get these ideas out, and that's really the first step to anything. You cannot begin formatting and outlining anything without having a starting point. Second thing you need to do is inspiration. One thing I've learned as a writer, and again, I did not call myself a writer. I didn't start calling myself an author until after I published this book. And when I say after, I mean after. I published my book in 2017, but it was only until about maybe maybe 2019, 2020 when I started to call myself an author. Yes. So the next thing you want to really think about is you have your ideas, okay? You need inspiration. So a lot of times we have something called writer's block, which just means that everything's in here, but you can't write it down here. Go somewhere that's going to give you inspiration. How, Teacher Dara? I don't even know where to start. Take a walk. Yes, this is what I did. You take a walk in your neighborhood, look around. Look at the tree, look at the person walking his or her dog. Look at the cafe, you know. Think about what you smell in the air. Do you smell smoke? Do you smell coffee? Do you smell food cooking? These are the things that can really help in your writing process, believe it or not. Especially if you're creating a story, or maybe something you smell or see could maybe trigger a memory in your own personal life that you say, hey, I remember that. Maybe I want to include that in my book. And one thing I want you all to remember is these are the baby steps. You are not to take this and say, okay, I'm writing my book tomorrow. No, you have to take your time, because this is definitely a time-consuming process. It took me 4 years to write this book, ladies and gentlemen, 4 years. Sometimes, not for everybody, conversations with people can be part of this too. Maybe you're talking to someone and someone shares something that really catches your attention, right? And you may really like what this person is saying. Now, I'm not suggesting that you take another person's words or story and making it to your own, but you can get inspired by that conversation, right? Maybe the conversation you had with your friend, or the person talking to you might share something that might be closely related to what you want to talk about. You never know, okay? One thing that I will say that's very, very critical is carrying a notebook and pen with you. I really wouldn't rely on my phone too much, because in this day and age, you have a lot of bad people who like to steal phones and harass people if you have your head in your phone the whole time. So sometimes just carrying your small notebook and a pen or pencil or marker can really be helpful. If you don't like that idea, there are some bookstores where they actually have books, like literally books, that's meant for what I'm saying, where they actually have just straight lines or blank paper, and it's like your writer's book, right? Instead of you having to have all these different sheets of paper, it's like you kind of have it in one, right? Bookstores is very inspiring as well. I've spent many days at bookstores and just kind of going through books, thumbing through different stories or self-help books, about how to feel better about yourself. A lot of those books were part of my inspiration for writing my book. Okay. So we have taking walks, good conversations with people, elements like smells, things that we eat, things that we say, having our notebooks just in case something comes to mind, maybe a conversation with someone. And what's going to happen too is once you have all these ideas, now you have something to work with. Now let's say you're in a situation where you're like, okay, Dara, I got that. I tried that, but honestly, I just don't know what to do. No worries. The good news is there are books out there. They call them prompts, and prompts just mean that these are books that will have like kind of like a starter. It gives you like a subject, or it might say, think of the time when you were very happy, right? And then you just focus on that prompt and you just start writing. We call this free writing because there's no right or wrong answer. It's just all about what's coming from your head onto that paper. Now, how is this beneficial? Good question. This is beneficial because what's going to happen is you kind of have a starting point. So instead of just randomly just grabbing things out the air, you have a prompt to kind of get you to start writing. And as you start to write, you may be surprised how much you write and what comes out of your writing. Because I can tell you, I started off writing about my teaching career, and next minute, I'm talking about my love life. How is that possible? It just happens. One of the things that I had to learn the hard way is you don't have to take every single thing that you write and put it in your book. Once you have an idea of how you want to approach this book writing process, this is where an outline will come in. But what's going to happen is you're going to do what's called process of elimination, which means that some things you wrote about will not correlate with what you want to talk about. You start to narrow things down. But before you narrow anything down, you have to have something to narrow it down. So, for example, you might have 10 pages of just a whole bunch of writing. Maybe nothing is making too much sense. This has nothing to do with that. And you're like, oh, what am I doing? Here's something I've done. Let's say you have 10 pages of a whole bunch of stuff and you're like, okay, I don't even know how I'm going to put this together. You take maybe 1 or 2 of those pages and decide, do I want to focus on this topic? Do I want to focus on whatever it is I'm writing about? And then focus only on that. And all those other pages, you put them aside. You may go back to it, you may not, but that's something that only you can decide. Now, there are other ways around this. I'm just kind of giving you more of the easy, simple ways. But if you're a person who's a little impatient, or you feel like, that's just too much, Dara, I don't want to do all that, you can hire someone to write your book. The downside to that is money. It's not a cheap process, okay? It's still time consuming for the person writing your book, but you're the one who has to provide something for the person to write the book. So it's still going to take some work on your part. And if you're like me, who's broke and don't have money to even, take care of basic necessities, then you will know all too well that that may not be a good option for you at this time, maybe down the line. And this one it's a plus and a minus, okay? You can talk to someone that you trust. Hey, bestie, I'm interested in writing a book about blah, 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 blah. Now, the reason why I say this is sketchy is because unfortunately we live in a time where people like to steal people's stuff. They like to steal your ideas, right? I don't like it, you don't like it, but that's the world, right? So you want to be careful how much you share with your bestie or your family members or whoever, because you have a lot of people who just are lazy. They don't want to do the work, and if they can steal your idea and get someone to write up something, next man you know, they're on the New York Times bestseller list, and you're saying, they're like, wait a minute, that was my book. Okay, so if you decide to talk with someone that you feel comfortable with to get advice, you can do that, but just be careful. I would recommend you speak to a mentor or someone who's in the business of book writing that can give you more practical advice depending on what you're trying to do, because that's their job. They're there to mentor you. They're not here to steal your stuff. But when it comes to anyone outside of that, you just have to be a bit careful. I'm pretty private. When I'm working on a project, I don't disclose or share with anyone until it's done. And then that's when I say, hey, everyone, it's Dara again. Check it out, because, I have to protect what I do. And one thing you will learn in this book writing process is that once you get to the point where now you're actively writing and you're formatting your book, and maybe you did hire an editor or you're editing the book yourself, once you get into that stage to now you're publishing your book, whether you self-publish or you pay someone to publish the book for you, that's when it becomes real. Because now it will be, in my case, this is my face. It might be your face or your name that's going to be on your book. That's going to be read from people, okay, from around the world. When you get this number, we call this an ISBN number. This number identifies your book and your book alone, okay? This barcode is also part of that. So you want to make sure that once you get to that stage, of course, you'll get your ISBN number, because That way no one can say they wrote this book or they published it, because they did not. And then now you have a book. How cool is that? You know, and I think that's amazing. And whichever route you take, try your best to ignore the naysayers. You're going to have a lot of people that's going to say, oh, you shouldn't be a self-publisher. Oh, you should go to a publishing house. Why are you editing your own book? Why didn't you get an editor? You're going to hear a lot of talk. And I'm not saying that they're 100% right or wrong, but the most important thing is you really want to think about what you want. You have to know what you want first. And then you can decide if you want to take the opinions of others. But the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, is you have to start with the basics. That is paper and pen. If you want to type it out, that's your choice. But you just want to write. And as simple, as easy as that sounds, it's one of the most terrifying things for a lot of people. But you just write. Even if you start off by saying doing something like this. Today I went to the store and I bought milk. And after that, I went to the laundromat to pick up my laundry. After that, I went home and I watched some TV. Now, you might say, oh my gosh, Dora, that's not, what is that? I know it sounds elementary, but do you know that most of us authors, that's how we start out. It's always something very basic, and it's like, huh? It's not epic. No, it's not supposed to be, because it'll be that very simple starting point that will lead to book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, and book 5 that's holding up my laptop as I'm recording this video. Okay, those are my initial tips and when it comes to starting the process of wanting to write a book. Okay, and I have to stress starting. Okay, there are other videos here on YouTube that will give you more details when it comes to the publishing process, but in my opinion, you really want to learn how to start first before you start talking about publishing, because you need a product to publish, right? And if you have any questions or any advice you may need from me, please leave your questions down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. And if you have any suggestions, or if you want me to do a part 2 to this video, I will be more than happy to do just that. Thank you so much for watching. Always try your best, because when you try your best, you certainly will do your best. Happy writing, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you all so much.